In my ongoing quest to keep you entertained, as well as to educate you and spiritually enlighten you, I want to present to you celebrities and other famous people who were crazy and are crazy in real life. Now, for a lot of the rich and famous, success brings with it the curse of insanity. Each week, it seems like a different celebrity's personal demons, which are magnified, by the way, by the stresses of fame, send them straight into the waiting arms of therapists, local drug dealers, rehab, jail, or death. Um, if you have, a lot of people think that money is the answer to everything, but it doesn't. It doesn't solve problems. If you were an addict before you got rich and famous, well, once you become rich and famous, you're an even bigger addict because now you have the money to indulge your addictions. If you were an idiot before you became rich and famous, the fame only turns you into a bigger idiot because now you feel you have a license to be a butthole. So we have, a lot of people who also had psychological problems. In fact, many of the celebrities get into the game because of their need for approval and acknowledgement and love. They're missing love in their lives and they need to be adored and worshiped. So they get into the game because they want that crowd adoration and that fake love that tells them you're okay and we love you. And as a result, whatever their sickness was prior to getting into the game, it's now being fed. We're enabling them by allowing them to go on and continue to be sick, and we pretend that everything's okay. So here we go. Now, this I want to start with a personal friend of mine. I actually wrote a book on him. If you go to my Amazon page, you'll see my book, Cat Williams, The Road to Hell. But I'm going to just briefly say, Cat made his comedic uh, debut in a hilariously funny, entertaining way. But now, well, not lately, because we haven't heard too much out of him, but in the years that passed, he had appeared to have gone crazy. And few of us were laughing, including those of us who know him, because Cat is a really intelligent guy. A lot of you may not know that, but he went to private schools. He had parents, I believe both of them were in the Black Panther movement, or they were both militant parents, and they stressed education. And Cat was a smart person, and he still is. But over the course of just 1 month, Cat was accused of punching his personal assistant. He was arrested for hitting a man over the head with a bottle. He was sued for fudging up a performance at the Oakland Oracle Arena. He was arrested for attempting to outrun the police on a three-wheel motorbike. And he was caught on camera pimp slapping a Target employee. So I don't even know. I haven't heard from him. We lost touch, and I don't know what the next stop on this crazy train is, but I hope he's somewhere getting help. They tried to take his kids, and that'll drive you crazy. But he was already acting out by the time they had started to the process of trying to take his children. And again, this is a really good, decent guy who tries to help people, who put a lot of unknown comics on his tour, just had love for the people, but he's got some issues, some real issues. All right, a lot of people don't know King Charles VI of France. He was also known as Charles the Mad, and his reign in France lasted from 1380 to about 1422. And this was about 12 years after taking the throne that his descent into the vortex began. He suffered from multiple episodes of mental illness whereby he couldn't even remember his name or that he was the king. He often did not recognize his wife or his children, and for a 5-month period in 1405, he refused to bathe or change his clothes. Now that's significant because there was also the famous movie director Howard Hughes who exhibited these symptoms where he wouldn't bathe, he wouldn't change his clothes, and so can you imagine? Well, anyway, according to Pope Pius II, King Charles VI believed he was made of glass and he had to take measures such as refusing to allow anyone to touch him and wearing reinforced clothing to ensure that he didn't break. And I don't know, maybe being a king is a hard job and it took its toll on him. Abraham Lincoln, however, if being a king is a hard job, imagine what being president is like. Well, he's well known for being the 16th president of the United States. He's also very well known for being the one who freed the slaves. And I could imagine after whatever the Confederates put him through after that, maybe that's what drove him crazy. But Lincoln was a manic depressive. And it was so bad that some of his biographers speculated that he probably even contemplated suicide. And according to a profile that was done of Lincoln published by Ability magazine, he often cried uncontrollably over the plight of the desperate, and he used humor to balance his sadness. And there are many of us who do that. You have to laugh to keep from crying. Sometimes you have to smile in the face of adversity. When you see your haters, instead of saying hi haters and antagonizing them, just smile. Smile. As you walk out your door, smile. It costs nothing. And it doesn't matter whether people smile back. I remember when my grandsons were young and we would go out and do things, and we still do, but this incident in particular sticks out. And we're walking up and down the avenue, and everybody that I passed, I smiled, I nodded, and I spoke. Good morning, how you doing? How's everything? Have a nice day. And the youngest one, he pulled me and he said, Grandma, why are you speaking to those people and they don't even speak back? Because a lot of them didn't say anything back. I guess because in New York, you're expected to have tude. And so a lot of them found it out of character. In the South, everyone speaks. They wave 100 times as you pass. It doesn't matter how many times you pass, they'll wave. Nonetheless, I told my grandson, I said, baby, it doesn't matter if they don't speak back. What matters is that I spoke. So we got to keep maintain that. And, getting back to old Abe, well, he relied on work and religious resignation to cope with his bouts of melancholia. And who knows? I mean, like I said, maybe it was a difficult job that drove him into this. Then we have our artists here, Ludwig van Beethoven. And despite being an accomplished composer during his lifetime, Ludwig experienced severe mental illness in what is known today as, again, bipolar disorder. His condition was actually documented in the book The Key to Genius, Manic Depression and the Creative Life. And while we're on the fine arts, let's go into, while we're on the creative arts, let's go into the fine arts. Vincent van Gogh. Now, he's famously known as the crazy artist who cut off his own ear, and then he later committed suicide. He's believed to have had epileptic seizures, which were caused by a brain lesion brought on by the prolonged use of absinthe, which was a highly alcoholic drink. So even back then, they were drinking and drugging. And his fast-paced painting, which looked like he was on speed, usually were followed by deep depression, which led to the widely held idea that he too suffered from bipolar disorder. He was also a prolific writer, having written hundreds of letters, and some believe he also had a condition linked to mania, characterized by an overwhelming urge to write. And this is indeed a fact. There are a lot of people with mental disorders who write in frenzies, and then they stop. And writing, I can tell you as a writer myself, that writing is very therapeutic. And so it's no doubt that I definitely have some mental issues. and my writing helps me to cope with them. Okay, so Albert Einstein. You can look at him and see that perhaps, just perhaps, the elevator doesn't reach the top floor. But Albert was a typical kooky scientist who undoubtedly was more than a little bit off, but he was as brilliant could be. And although he was a seemingly friendly, intelligent guy, he also suffered from attachment issues. And this is very true even today. We have a lot of people who they're cool until you try to get too close, and then they run. And it's something that's going on in that gray matter that makes them feel like, I don't trust people. I don't want to get close. As long as you stay back and give me my space. And this is what they're saying. This is what the voices inside their head is telling them, that they need that space. They can't get too close. And this was exhibited by Einstein in 1901 with his first girlfriend, Mileva Marek. They were on holiday in Italy, and the holiday abruptly ended when she became pregnant. And Einstein, at the time, he had no money to support her and the new baby, so he ran off like a thief in the night. And the child, whose name was Lucero, was born in 1902, but she was never mentioned in Einstein's letters to Mileva. And it's unknown what happened to the child, but it was suspected that she died of scarlet fever. Okay, Ernest Hemingway. Oh, God, the Hemingways. He was a Pulitzer and Nobel Prize winning author. He was the victim of depression and alcoholism. And it's like, it's a no-win situation. If you're already depressed and then you introduce alcohol, well, guess what? Now you're going to be even more depressed. I don't know if a lot of you know, but if you go past some of the stores that sell liquor and look up at the sign, many of them say wines and spirits. And I've often felt that the reason they call it spirits is because once you drink it, then a whole new spirit takes over the person. They are not themselves. I had an uncle who was a mean drunk. He'd get drunk and he'd want to fight and cut everybody. He even carried a knife on him all the time so he could be ready to wave it at people. And, there are people who, they're friendly drunks who get drunk and they just want to be everybody's friend. And then you have, sloppy drunks who just get drunk to the point where they can't even carry themselves home. And so old Hemingway was a drunk. And like Van Gogh, he ultimately chose to end his life by suicide. And the strange thing about it, and I don't want to call it heredity, but Hemingway's father, brother, sister, and granddaughter also chose to end their lives by suicide. And so while a predilection to suicide may have resided in his DNA, Hemingway's mental health in his final years was likely affected by a lifetime of heavy drinking. And then there was also medication and mentally disruptive side effects, which caused him to be hospitalized. And once he was hospitalized, there was also, he was treated with shock therapy, which is never a good idea. And it's possible that it caused memory loss and most likely intensified his depression. And for those of you who are not familiar with shock therapy, it's a method whereby electrodes are attached to your head and you're shocked with electricity. It's like you're in the electric chair, but you're not being electrocuted. You're just given enough to, rattle your brain. So anyway, I understand that it's not being done as much, but who knows? We really don't know what's being done behind closed doors. Another manic depressive was Marlon Brando. He was a prolific actor, but he suffered from chronic depression throughout his entire career. There's so many of these celebrities who they act out, and you cannot tell when they're acting and when they're not. And not even in just regards to the actual actors, but even others who are in different fields of entertainment or sports where they have these episodes. Now, one actor who can really act out and is seriously ill, and we already know Wesley Snipes, he's more than a little bit nutty when it comes to paying his taxes. I don't. For those of you who read my book, Hip Hop Illuminati, I mentioned how he went before the judge and he gave the most hilarious excuse for not paying his taxes, and he really showed out in the filming of the Blade Trinity series, that franchise where he was Blade, and you know, Snipes, he battled with the director, David Goyer, first of all. He refused to come out of his pot den trailer for anything other than close-ups. And when he did decide to act, the result was so flat and emotionless that Reynolds was given free rein to just improvise. Now, Wesley remained in character even on the set, going so far as to introduce himself as Blade on Patton's first day. His antics peaked when he attempted to strangle Goya, and during one of his rare set appearances, which led the frightened director to enlist a couple of local Hell's Angels to be his bodyguards. The fracas was enough to push Wesley to cut first-hand interaction with Goya off completely, opting for post-it notes as a means of communication. And he signed these post-it notes with Blade. So if that's not staying into character, then nothing is. And Patton Oswalt, he revealed to the AV Club that, you know, Wesley was definitely behind these antics on the set, and the fact that his trailer smelled of marijuana the entire time that he filmed. And again, I have to say, in regards to substance abuse, I was a pothead for many, many years. And I challenge you to get potheads to admit this, but when I didn't have weed, I was bipolar. When I had it, I was okay. I was cool, I was nice. But when I didn't have it during the time of my addiction, and I'm telling you, I was a pothead for a good 30 years, I became bipolar, I became depressed. I one time took a cab all the way back up to Harlem, circling the blocks, looking for people who could sell me weed, because I had moved into a neighborhood where you didn't have drug dealers. I had, like the Jeffersons, I had moved on up, so I had to go back to Harlem where I knew I would find someone. And I stopped in front of a group of young guys because I told the driver, oh, they look like they're selling weed. And that was terrible because they could have just been hanging out, but it was about 2 a.m. and it was a group of them in front of the PJs. And so I automatically assumed, and guess what? I was right. I found what I was looking for. I was lucky I didn't get robbed or beaten or raped or anything, because I hopped out of the car, told the driver to wait, and the boys didn't want to do it on the street, so they had me go into a building. And I went in there, and this was my need for weed that caused me to make what could have been a very deadly mistake, because I went into this building with several guys that I did not know for the purpose of purchasing weed. And I had a good piece of cash on me because I didn't want to make that trip too often. So I figured, let me bring a couple of hundred and hopefully they'll have enough so that I don't have to come up there too often. And the funny thing about it is I got beat, because I thought, I did not literally beaten, but I got beat in terms of defrauded out of my money, because half of what they sold me wasn't even good weed. It was what we call dirt. So I got some loud, as the young people call it now, but most of my money was wasted because mixed in with the loud was a lot of dirt. Anyway, thank God for deliverance. I won't ever be making that trip uptown again. Kiefer Sutherland, he's a gravelly voiced action icon, and he has a history of DUIs as well as just plain drunken misbehavior. He took his shirt off in a strip club because I guess there's no way better to thank strippers for their hard work than going topless in solidarity. And then there were times when Sutherland bought into his own press. For instance, in 2009, he headbutted a fashion designer who had made a lewd comment to his good friend. And in 2006, while partying with a band that he managed at a London hotel, Kiefer spotted what I can only assume was a suspicious looking Christmas tree, and he proceeded to beat it and smash it around the lobby, and then he agreed to pay for it. So, I do believe that in celebritydom, a lot of times it causes people to regress because you have so many people that are pandering to you and treating you like a spoiled child that you can actually revert to becoming a spoiled child. It's interesting. During the days when I had an abundance of money and I was in the industry, I never ran out of people willing to do whatever I needed. And I saw people who were just so enamored of the money and the lifestyle that if I had told them, you know what, go jump off the roof, I bet you that there would have been someone who would have done it because the loyalty was that deep. But I'll tell you something about loyalty like that. It's fake. Because the minute the thing you have that keeps them loyal to you disappears, so do they. Okay. Nicholas, and I would have never told anyone to do something so foolish, but that's just how sick the game is. And when you talk about one of my subscribers, well, I don't know if he's a subscriber, but someone left me a note on my last video saying, how do people sell their soul? Well, they sell them themselves by doing things that they know are wrong. So you have these people, these weak-minded people in the business who they themselves are not stars, but they are willing to do whatever to just be in on the action, just to be down, just to ride. So I have to say that, this is it's a little sick. The game is a little sick. Nicolas Cage, he's an eccentric multimillionaire who's both a weirdo in his personal life and in his career choices. This is the same guy who won a well-deserved Oscar for his performance in Leaving Las Vegas. And he did a bunch of good movies, and then he started doing these sleepers, a bunch of crap like Bangkok Dangerous, Next, and Trespass. And then he married the equally weird Lisa Marie Presley because he was a fan of her father, Elvis Presley. Now, that sounds like a good enough reason to get married. There's a 50-50 chance that on each film he'll either sleepwalk through it or just overact. So every line comes off reading like this. As for his personal life, well, he likes to purchase rare dinosaur skulls in his downtime. He has a pyramid that was specially prepared for his body in the afterlife. And he dresses crazy and has had more than a couple classic sloppy, drunk, embarrassing moments. And to top it off, he only eats animals that he considers that have dignified sex. So pigs are out, obviously. And I guess the final coup for Mr. Cage is that he named his youngest son after Superman. Yep, his son Kal-El Cage. For those of you who are Superman fans, you might recall that that was Superman's name before he came to Earth. Okay, Earth to Mars. Let's get Nicholas. Christopher Walken is always going to be perceived as a strange dude because he earned a reputation for playing strange characters. And he is, without a doubt, one of the best character actors of our time. But I would have to say that you must be crazy if you think that a guy who's made a career out of playing weirdos isn't in fact weird himself, because he's got to be drawing from somewhere within each time he plays these characters. So what is Christopher's crazy character trait? Well, for starters, he's obsessed with cats. And when I say obsessed, he has been known to share with people his feline fascination, particularly with the tail. He's even gone on and on about the myriad expressions that cats can convey simply through their tail. And he said once how cool and game-changing it would be if actors had a tail as well. Alrighty then. Words can barely describe the insanity of Gary Busey. I mean, just look at him, and you can determine just from his appearance that he has to be somewhere out of this world. But there are things even crazier to him than imaginable once he opens that creepy mouth of his. He spouts off all this metaphysical nonsense, quantum theory, spiritual musings, or he will share proudly how he used to sniff coke off his dog. Now, is he a misunderstood savant, the victim of a tragic loss of inhibition thanks to head injuries sustained in his infamous 1988 motorcycle crash? Or is he simply yet another cautionary tale of the dangers of drug abuse? With the kind of stuff that comes out of Gary's mouth, it's probably all three and then some. So I'm gonna wind down here. I know I didn't really get into the females too much, but there are quite a few of them actually. But these were the top of my crazy lists. If you want to actually see all of the, or most of the crazy celebs, then please feel free to go to Amazon and purchase my book, Insanely Famous Celebrities Who Are Crazy in Real Life. And I cover Lark Voorhees and Solange Knowles and Amanda Bynes and Miley Cyrus and a whole bunch of other females. Barbara Streisand, she played the part of a woman who needed to be institutionalized in nuts, and I think that she stayed in character for far too many years afterwards. Everybody knows the late Anna Nicole Smith was a basket case, but what you may not know, in a photo shoot, in her need for attention, she insisted on playing Marilyn Monroe's greatest musical hits, which I must say is a very limited collection, and she played it all day long. So, and then she acted out each song. So I'm sure that must have been a long and tiresome day for the photographers. And who can forget the constant erratic behavior of Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, and Paris Hilton? So, every week your favorite trash-talking tabloids will let you know what these people are up to. But my whole point in sharing this with you is to say, and I had briefly touched on this in my previous video, of how just because someone is a celebrity doesn't mean they're not crazy. Actually, it's the opposite. Just because they are celebrity, chances are they're a little bit crazy. And so those of you who, I call you star chasers, there's some people that they want to be at every event because they're hoping they can meet a celebrity. Be careful with that, because chances are the same way that you're enamored over them, if you wind up in some secluded place with this so-called star and they do something to you, it's going to be very hard for you to prove your case without substantial evidence. Because remember, the same way you're starstruck over this person, the judges and the lawyers and even the police sometimes are also starstruck. So first you've got to find someone to believe you, and then second, you have to find someone who is willing to convict and to bring this person to justice. And I cannot tell you how many times that celebrities have gotten away with crimes. Lord knows there are enough of them like Brandy and a few others who have killed people in vehicular homicide who are still walking around today, and they are not punished. They remained unpunished for these crimes. And it's not just the celebritydom of the person, but it's also the fact that the money will buy you a lot of things in this world, in this worldly world that we live in. You've got people who can buy their way pretty much out of anything. So you want to be careful with chasing after these wealthy people. Let's not forget that wealthy guy. He was from some third world country, and he came over here to New York, and he was in a fancy hotel, and he raped the maid, who was an immigrant. She was an African immigrant, and she was working at the hotel to try to take care of her family and herself. And he raped her, and by the time the case got to court, he was found not guilty. And I could just imagine how devastating that was for the woman. But the poor have a poor chance of getting justice in this lifetime. So, we have to take care in why we choose to associate with people. We have to take care in what situations we allow ourselves to get into. And we have to take care of ourselves. Those of you who still go out partying and drinking, and you get yourself in a state where people can abuse you and take advantage of you, how do you feel the next day? It cannot be a good feeling. And this is why you've got to clean it up. So I'm not going to rant. I'm tempted to rant, but I won't. I just want to say, young people, and even some of you older people, get off the bandwagon chasing these stars, because they're people just like you and me, and many of them are not good people. There's some here and there who are. Kat is a good person, but there are a lot who are not. Okay, I want to pray. Lord, I thank you and I bless you today, because it is via you that I am able to do what I do, that I am able to have the strength to endure the time that it takes to make these presentations, that I have the breath to get the words out to the best of my ability, and I thank you for that. I serve you willingly, Lord. I have no regret. It is an honor and a privilege to serve you, Lord. You've been so magnificent to me that I actually just look forward to doing thy will. So I thank you, Lord, for allowing me to be in your service. I thank you, Lord, for the people who watch the videos. I thank you for the commentaries of encouragement, for all those who thank me and wish me well. And I wish I could answer all of them, but sometimes I just can't. I don't have the strength. So I ask you, Lord, to look upon each and every one and to grant your blessing and to keep them wanting to seek truth, and to keep them with their eyes open and seeing the truth and acknowledging the truth, and to open the eyes of those who are still closed, who refuse to see the truth, and to show them that just as there is good, there is indeed evil, and that they must be aware, that they must be watchmen, that the enemy attacks the camp while it is asleep. So those of you who have your eyes closed, who are asleep, you are prime. You're being primed for the enemy. And I don't want to see you perish. I love you. And I do this because I love you. Because the love of God is in me. And he speaketh through his word, the Bible, that these are the final days, that the enemy awaits, and it is only through his great mercy that we are not under the full reign of the wrath of the enemy. He has withheld it, and it is my belief that he has withheld the powers of hell so that more can come to him before it is too late. So, family, seek these things. Look to the hills from which cometh thy help before it is too late. I thank you and I bless you in the mighty, mighty name of Yeshua, Jesus, Jehovah God. Amen.